Hello, I'm Comic Field, and today I ask a question. Could a Hasbro cinematic universe work? So, I like My Little Pony. It's obvious. And MLP is owned by Hasbro. And my friend Adrian made a three-part trilogy of his idea of what an HCU could look like. And I'm going to analyze the idea as a whole. Now, forgive me if I'm not knowledged in the lore of the other franchise as much as MLP, because MLP is the only one I've really watched extensively. I did do a little bit of research, though, and I watched Adrian's videos. So, let's begin. The story and the villain. Now, in Hasbro's range of villains, they have a few options. Cobra, the Decepticons, Discord, Miles Mannheim, Unicron, Queen Chrysalis, etc. Hasbro already has a shared universe, that being the IDW comics. They had a G.I. Joe Transformers, Mask, Gem. I think they did MLP like twice, but the MLP IDW comics mostly just kept to themselves. Which is not a decision to me. MLP is one of Hasbro's most popular franchises. It basically took over the whole world at one point. And I think in a theoretical cinematic universe, they'd want MLP to be at the forefront. It makes Hasbro more money, and I'd be more interested in watching this, honestly. The villains would probably be a character like Unicron, or a character like Discord, which would mean that we'd be dabbling into some space stuff. I mean, the Transformers are from Cybertron, and MLP's planet isn't named, but I'll call it a quiz. But it's not on Earth, I know that. Now a story would be kind of difficult. I'm gonna borrow this from Adrian's version a little bit, but I think it's a good idea. In this, we have two villains: Unicron and Discord. Discord is free from stone, however, HCU Discord is smarter. He's still goofy though. Discord leads a quiz and travels the universe looking for a strong ally, that being Unicron. Think about it: Unicron is the Lord of Chaos, Discord is the Spirit of Chaos. They're both arguably the strongest characters, let alone villains, in their respective universes, and a team up between these two makes sense. Now I decided to give myself a little bit of a story of the universe of what I think it would look like. The Transformers leave their fallen planet, Cybertron. The Decepticons follow. Once the Transformers land on Earth, they have to adapt to it. The Decepticons land as well, wreak havoc, so the US government calls in G.I. Joe to help. The Joes team up with the Transformers to take them out. They need to go into hiding, the Decepticons do. Meanwhile, on a quest, Celestia, who leads the most powerful nation, as their monarch, senses the presence of Unicron. She's not entirely sure what it is, but she describes it to the main six in the statue guard, giving Discord the idea. Now, in this version, Pinkie Pie accidentally sets Discord free by being silly instead of the CMCs doing it. The LP movie would have Discord as a villain, but Discord escapes instead of being encased back into stone. He too senses Unicron, and they make an alliance. Since Celestia senses him doing that, and tells the main six to go to Earth and team up with the heroes of Earth. Phase 1 would be filled with origins, and then Phase 2 would be about the recruiting and stuff. Twilight would recruit Optimus Prime first and the Transformers, and then they would both go off and start recruiting everyone. Phase 3 would be about them preparing to fight Unicron and Discord after they tell each other about their respective villains. The Autobots tell the main six about the Unicron, and then main six tells them about Discord. And Phase 3 would be about, preparing to fight them, and the last Phase 3 would be Transformers Chaos Theory, which would show the two, Discord in a new form, which in my opinion would look like the G5 design, and Unicron, who's already very powerful, so he doesn't need a new look. Discord is on a quest, and Unicron is on Earth, giving it something similar to Infinity War, where the battle against Thanos took place on both Wakanda and Titan. This would be similar. All of these heroes, teams, soldiers, etc., that Twilight and Optimus Prime are recruiting throughout Phase 2 all get together and fight. In the end, Optimus sacrifices himself for the good of all the heroes by using the Matrix of Leadership. Yeah, borrowing more from Adrian's, I know, but... And then Discord is encased back into stone. This is what I think an HCU would look like. But could it happen? Would it be a good idea? Could Hasbro pull it off? Well, it's a good idea, but I don't know if Hasbro could pull it off. Let me explain. Hasbro, how it does its franchises is very different from how DC does it or Marvel does it, for example. Each franchise seems to be confined to its own rules and universe, while in a crossover fan fiction, you can take some liberties. In case of some official, you can't do everything perfect without accidentally screwing something up. Let's look at our main three, for example. Transformers, NLP, G.I. Joe. One is about alien robots adjusting to Earth and fighting Decepticons. One takes place within entirely another planet that's completely magical, and then the other two have no magic. And then the last one is a realistic universe about soldiers fighting a terrorist group, where the other two couldn't fit in a realistic universe. While I think it fit fine in IDW, I don't think Hasbro itself and how it markets things would work either, because, well, here's how Hasbro toys work. Typically, a Hasbro toy has different generations and reboots every 10 years or so. Take Transformers and MLP, for example. G1 Transformers and G1 MLP are way different than the current generations. And G4 MLP, while it's the most talked about and famous MLP generation, now Hasbro barely even acknowledges it outside of G5 lore, and I think that's mostly the writers doing. And it only really focuses on G5 now. I don't even think they've used the original like G4 designs for the characters since a new generation came out. Which makes and G5 and it's more likely that if they did do this, they'd have to use G5 characters. They'd have to use G5, which makes even less sense within the lore of the other Hasbro universes. The issue within HCU is that Hasbro, for the most part, makes standalone stuff. It worked with IDW because IDW did something different, and IDW comics took the franchises of certain and put in certain liberties. But I just don't think Hasbro has the time, money, or hell, even care to make its own cinematic universe. Not on the scale of Marvel or DC's, anyway. I'm sure that they could, but they would probably just use some of their characters and not all of their franchises. I think they'd mostly just use Transformers, maybe G.I. Joe and Mask and stuff like that, but they wouldn't use the more out there ones like MLP or Gem. And Mattel's Cinematic Universe, I don't know if that'll succeed. Barbie's a pretty good movie from what I've heard, but how are they going to tell a Barbie story in the same universe as something like He-Man or Thomas? It works in a crossover fanfiction like mine, Comicverse, because there's stories in fanfiction. It's easier to splurge from my headcanons onto the page, and also, I take many liberties with it. And not to mention, I basically made my own universe that happens to have all these characters within it, instead of taking the universes and then plopping them in. With an actual team of writers who have to make do with what they have without doing what I did, and have to stick with the current generations no less, I can see it being very hard on writers, especially if Hasbro suddenly wants to jump ship and make a G6 right after Phase 2 is finished or something. So, they still have G5 characters. Now, they gotta shoehorn in the G6 ponies and abandon the G5 ones. That's the problem with a lot of companies. They feel the need to reboot things when stories are still already going on. Take MLPG4, for instance. If you watch Season 8 without knowing where Season 9 ended up being, you can tell the writers wanted to do more. They had way more stories to tell. But since Hasbro was planning a G5 since 2017, they had to suddenly jump ship and barely had enough time to squeeze out a good finale season. I'm pretty sure they were lucky that Season 9 was good, because I'm pretty sure they had to rush it. I can see this happening with HCU, but times 100, because you also have Transformers, G.I. Joe, Mask, all these other franchises that with their all own generations. And you have to remember, Hasbro is a toy company. Their first priority is, well, will this random new toy we just came up with sell? Not, let's make a damn good story for bronies, Transformer fans, G.I. Joe fans, Mask fans, Gem fans, all these fans to enjoy. That is not their first priority. If they truly cared about the fans, they wouldn't have given out cease and desists to bronies, and they wouldn't have torn up a little girl's letter to them. And this is just what happened to MLP fans. Transformers fans, G.I. Joe fans, whoever's watching, are you treated similarly? Because, good God. So in conclusion, I think a Hasbro Cinematic Universe could theoretically work. Adrian proved that at his HU is awesome. But there are some problems, and I don't think Hasbro would give enough damns, if I'm being honest. Hasbro and Mattel both have always been negligent with their properties. They just never give things their full potential. They always hold it back. Makes random shiny new toys, and oh, you have to make an episode about this new random thing we're selling, even though it has nothing to do with the story you're currently doing. Or they'll reboot things thinking, hey, this is a good idea, let's just reset shit! That'll go over well! Yeah, sure did. But look on the bright side. You have fan fiction on the internet that could tell any good crossover story you want. Yeah, sure, there are some weird ones, like Pooh's Adventures, but Adrian Man Ray, my good friend, has consistently made good video after good video. He did blunder some decisions in his early days in 2021, but he was just getting started at the time, so I don't blame him. His first videos aren't that good. No, my first videos aren't that good either. Subscribe for more horrors.